Hi, my name is Resham. I'm with the Path team. It is an absolute pleasure to share this entire space with you, and thank you so much for joining this session with my dear friend Kanika. I would like to have Kanika on stage with us. Let's welcome her with a round of applause, please. And I'd like to give the floor to Aditi. Thank you.
Thank you, Resham. Firstly, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Kanika is a Kanika is a legal professional specializing in national and global health law. She holds an LLM degree from the Georgetown University Law Center in Washington, D.C., and a bachelor's in law from University of Delhi. Kanika is an accomplished legal researcher and writer with an experience in drafting legal documents, analyzing laws and regulations, and conducting research on domestic and global policies impacting planetary health. Her areas of interest include the intersection of medicine, technology, and law with a focus on multi-sectoral approach to strengthen public health system. We humbly welcome you, Kanika.
Thanks so much, Resham and Aditi. Thank you for the invite. I want to quickly start with introducing my work to you, as well as the prevalence of artificial intelligence in health. We're talking about responsible AI in health in this session, so I just want to start with that, as well as my work right now. This should be working, right? All right. I hope I'm audible. So I'm Kanika. I am a technical officer with the Department of Digital Health and Innovation at WHO headquarters. As a lawyer by training, I contribute towards the normative product drafting at WHO within the AI for Health team. The AI for Health team is but a product of the Global Initiative on AI for Health, which is a tripartite initiative between the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, International Telecommunications Union, ITU, and WHO, of course. The initiative is led by WHO. So, sorry, I can't put the slides on the presentation mode because, like Resham, I also come from the tech field but don't really understand it as much sometimes. The slide is just to show you about the research on AI in the health field, which is accelerating at an uncanny rate. The number of publications that are on a rise when it comes to AI in health, which is a good thing and also a bad thing because it is making us aware about a lot of repercussions that we are not prepared for. The complexity and capacity of artificial intelligence has grown. We all know about it, especially since, I want to say 2022, when ChatGPT and such other AI models came about. What was interesting for me was this slide, actually. When we started using artificial intelligence, we were talking about how AI is not as empathetic, and the accuracy levels at which it's giving results is questionable. Not anymore, though, interestingly. The quality and the accuracy levels that AI in many fields of health, I can't generalize it, but in many fields of health, the accuracy and quality that AI is delivering is outpowering the human capabilities and capacities when it comes to research and development. The shocking news, although, is empathy. When we started using AI in different forums, I'm not going to name platforms, but we have had cases where difficult questions have been posed to models and very direct answers have been given back, which was not great if you come to think of it. I don't know if it rings a bell or not. But at this point, there was a survey that was conducted, and it was found out that humans are not as empathetic as AI models are with their responses. I think a lot of us can also agree to it when we use ChatGPT. Just to give you an example, if you talk to ChatGPT about body image issues, the kind of response you'll get from ChatGPT is nowhere close to the kind of empathy that you would receive from a doctor. Talking about the private sector, there have been a lot of advancement in the AI for health sector, but more specifically, NVIDIA, which is an AI R&D industry, came up with glass nurses. This is a $9 per hour service that is provided by a chatbot or actually a robot on the other side. As you can see, there is a lady on the screen. She talks to you. For the global north, $9 per hour is not a lot of money, but speaking in the Indian context, it is still very expensive. Talking about accessibility and affordability in AI in health. So goes for generative AI. There was a trouble where a mother of a 4-year-old was running between doctors trying to get the right diagnosis for the kind of trouble her child was going through, only to avail no positive results. She ultimately resorted to ChatGPT, completely given up, resorted to ChatGPT, found positive results, got the right diagnosis, went back to the doctors agreed. So this is where we are at in terms of accuracy and availability of GPT models or AI, generative AI models in the healthcare sector. Being more technical, diabetic retinopathy is an area where AI is able to help aggressively. It is able to make diagnosis for diabetes more accessible, more affordable, quick and faster, all the themes that are of essence when you're talking about the healthcare sector. As you can see, the accuracy levels are between 87 and 90%, and the specificity of 98% for detecting referable diabetic retinopathy. You can really challenge humans when you're talking about such accuracy levels. So goes for AI quickly in other areas such as assisted living, food fortification. AI was able to diagnose the causes of anemia in the youth population in parts of the world, and what were the causes, what is it that can be done for it. Something that otherwise we would want to invest a lot of human power and resource into to get the same kind of results. So goes for tuberculosis. This is heavily talked about, so I'd rather not jump into it right now. This is interesting. AI and drug discovery. We're using it. I believe there are going to be some questions. I'm not going to delve into it too much right now. But when it comes to drug discovery, AI is able to contribute towards it heavily. Again, bringing very accurate results. So goes for infection prevention and control. And the last slide, last column here is about LMICs. So we often challenge how AI is going to contribute towards LMICs. Do LMICs have the resources? So this is an example for infection prevention and control in LMICs and how hospitals in Bangladesh are able to use AI to cure the same. Climate health is something that we are all very aware of, climate change, which has a direct impact on health. And AI is proving to be very helpful here as well. Very quickly, these are some of the areas where climate change impacts health, just in case some of us don't know. Malaria, intentional injuries, respiratory problems, non-communicable diseases, diarrhea, and the list goes on, really. This is where I jump in. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I don't understand the other areas as well as many of us in the room may be understanding. But this is what I do understand, the gap analysis. Governments have realized that there is a pacing problem between where artificial intelligence regulation today is versus where it should be. What are the technological advancements, and is the regulatory sector advancing at a similar pace, if not faster, which should be the case otherwise. The executive order in the United States on AI says it focuses on safety, efficacy, and trustworthy AI. The question is it delving into the healthcare sector as much? The answer is no. What is the problem there? We'll discuss as we go forward. But this is essentially where my work comes in at WHO. I'm bifurcating my work in 3 sections. Past, where I was not with WHO, I was a student learning about WHO's work. Present or now, where we are at with, and what are the expectations? Next. When we talk about the past, the Global Initiative on AI for Health started as a topic group between WHO and the International Telecommunications Union. It was rather an impromptu decision that came about in an open discussion in the AI for Good Summit, which is a summit hosted by ITU. So this happened in 2018. This is just to show you the trajectory of where we started and how we went about. The point then was to build a network of experts. We had 100+ experts at the time. Now we are 500+ experts. And the intent was to benchmark frameworks and bring up international policies and standards, something we have worked upon heavily. This soon migrated into the Global Initiative on AI for Health, which is the one circle there, which is when the World Intellectual Property joined us. The global initiative, we may be thinking, what is the point of ITO and WIPO in all of this? The problem is that health and AI are two sectors that also require technical assistance, so that a healthcare regulatory body or a healthcare international body cannot alone suffice this. Which is why even in India, we see while MIT is the one leading the AI work, it is happening in collaboration with other ministries, such as the Ministry of Health. And International Telecommunications Union, of course, because we need the technical expertise. This happened in July 6th last year, on July 6th last year in 23, when we migrated the Global Initiative. The Global Initiative is a rather straightforward initiative. We have 3 pillars where we are talking about enabling, facilitating, and implementing AI for health. We often complain about how artificial intelligence policies are something that are left on paper and in bookshelves and are not executed ever, which is why we have an implementation pillar and collaborate with organizations such as PATH to bring it on the ground. I'm going to skip some slides here. Let's see this one. Also to say, it's not only the headquarters that is working in this area, we have different regions also contributing heavily towards AI in health. Something that I take as a personal achievement, sorry about the first picture. Something that I take as an achievement is the strategic roundtable. For reference, during the World Health Assembly, there is a strategic roundtable that the Director General himself hosts, by which I also mean that he's the one picking out the themes to be discussed. This year, there was artificial intelligence, climate change, AMR, and 2 other areas, one of which was the investment rounds. It is commendable because it is being recognized not only by the experts of AI, but also by the Director General, who's hosting all units and departments of WHO. All right, very quickly, the enabling pillar is about drafting normative policies and products, and I highly encourage all of you to scan these QR codes just in case you're interested in learning more about what WHO is doing. But very quickly, under the enabling piece, we are working on drafting normative products and guidance documents to understand the ethics and governance of AI for health, what is the need of the hour, what are the regulatory considerations that should be, and then being aware of the latest developments with large multimodal models, which is ChatGPT, BARD, so on and so forth. And we also have a course for people who enjoy answering questions better than just reading. My area, regulating is the need of the hour. We have recognized this globally, where experts from all over the world are talking about the challenges in the regulatory sector of AI. And I want to take this opportunity to really go into what the regulatory considerations on AI for health guidance talks about within WHO. I actually want to open the floor, sorry for the cheat sheet. I want to open the floor to the audience to see what do you think is the role of a regulator when we're talking about regulating the AI sector in health, if anybody wants to take the question. Please go on. Yeah, can we pass the mic?
When we see from the point of view of the regulator, the main part of a AI is the data that trains the AI.
Yes.
So where the AI will get the data
Yes.
is the key.
Perfect.
And how the data is they are capturing and how they are utilizing it,
Perfect.
how they are anonymizing the information, personal data.
Perfect.
That is the key.
Resha, my job is half done here. That is perfect. Anybody else who wants to take a shot on this question? What is the role of a regulator while talking about AI in health?
I would say validation, because building on the point that he highlighted, that the data, sometimes data itself is biased
Yes.
in nature,
Yes.
and companies start making claims that we have discovered something.
Yes.
To validate those claims, we need a third party who is neutral in nature.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. And I think we had a comment there.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to make the point about validation. Adding to that, in terms of also regulating how AI is used, in terms of also, I would say more from like a clinical perspective, what are the specific protocols that one should adhere to while using the AI? Because, the use cases and defining those and identifying what's acceptable, what are the acceptable gold standards. So
On
those,
point.
yeah.
On point. Okay, my job now is completely done. Very quickly, to summarize everybody's points, the role of a regulator is to protect the consumer, the patient, or the end user, is to ensure that the data is being safeguarded in all ways possible, the ways that you all highlighted already. It is to ensure about the pricing model, which is to say it should be accessible and affordable. And the last one is that the technical innovations and the ethical innovations run hand in hand. So to draw that kind of balance. This is what the regulatory considerations guidance talks about. So just in case you want to learn more about this, I encourage you to go back to it and read it. I think something that we missed here, although, is how the regulatory considerations in any domestic or international level should keep pace with the technological advancements. Time has proven. We started in 2022-23 with ChatGPT as a text-based model. Currently, it takes pictures, it generates pictures. It takes videos, it gives back videos. And there is a lot of manipulation in terms of the data that is being used and how it's being used. What is the source of it and how it's coming back, which is leading to a lot of patent and IP-related issues, copyright-related issues. What is important, therefore, is that the laws keep pace with the technological advancements. So there has to be a comprehensive and consistent effort in terms of updating where we are at. It has to be evidence-based. It can't be hearsay. It has to be science-based or evidence-based, whatever we please. It has to be dynamic and adaptable. And most importantly, there has to be a global collaboration. AI knows no geographical boundaries. We can use what is there in the US right now sitting in India. So there has to be some sort of a coordination and collaboration between where we are at. And the regulations also then need to address the global problems that may arise. Very quickly, the guidance is talking to the stakeholders, different stakeholders, research and developers, regulators and policymakers, manufacturers, healthcare workers, and patients. So it's really covering anybody and everybody on the ground. The purpose is to initiate a multi-stakeholder dialogue. It is to have international collaboration, and it is to have a common understanding of what is happening in AI and health. So it's giving out 18 key recommendations around 6 topic areas. We're talking about documentation and transparency that you talked about. We are talking about risk management and AI safety systems development lifecycle approach, which is to say pre-market approval, post-market approval, what is the intended use, where we are going with the intended use, has there been any manipulation to make the AI tool more efficient. The regulatory bodies need to be aware of this through and through. And this is not just to make sure that there is enough documentation and transparency. This is also to ensure that there is trust from you and from me. Otherwise, AI models will not ever be able to succeed in the markets. There has to be clinical validation. There has to be proper data quality checks. There has to be engagement and collaboration. Something that we're doing right now is also good enough in order to ensure that the concerns are raised, heard, and addressed. And lastly, privacy and data protection. This is one of my favorite areas because we don't know how AI acts and policies really interact with privacy policies, because AI statutes have to interact with the human rights that exist today. We also have a guidance on the large multimodal models that is an extension of the ethics and governance guidance that we had earlier. It's talking about the benefits and the risks of using large multimodal models in health. Read the guidance and you would learn a lot more. And I'm going to leave my email ID at the end, so write back to us just in case you see that there are some flaws, gaps, or areas that need to be addressed. But very quickly, how does the guidance from WHO really assist the people on the ground? So WHO has made a humble effort of having checklists for different parties, which is the government sector, the deployment sector, the developer sector, the regulators, for everybody to be aware of what they're bringing to the market and what is it that they need to be doing from our respective ends in order to ensure that whatever we are throwing in the market is good for everyone. Apart from this, we have topic-specific areas that we collaborate on. So very quickly, we're talking about the benefits and risks of pharmaceutical research. Oh, this is not clear. Okay, no problem. Benefits and risks of pharmaceutical research and development, AI and the use of sexual and reproductive health, AI and tuberculosis, and something that I'm very new to is AI and traditional medicine, which is actually really good, something I did not exactly know. Facilitation is again having topic groups, working groups, and a community of practice. This is just to boost the area that we are working in and to ensure that you as recipients are already aware of the goods and the bads and the believables and nots of AI in health. something I'm very proud of, again, is the regulatory considerations guidance. When we talk about adaptability and dynamism of the guidance, we restarted the work on the regulatory considerations guidance, and we have 3 co-chairs. Professor Dean Ho is actually a manufacturer, a developer, an engineer, and also an academician. So he brings that perspective. Justice Pratibha, I am saying, which is a huge shout out to India in the Global Voice, is a High Court judge in Delhi, and she works. She used to work in the pharmaceutical sector a lot, so she brings the legal perspectives and the regulatory perspectives, given her influence in the Indian legislative system as well as the global system through WIPO. And then we have, of course, Dr. Ricardo. He's from an organization called Health AI. He brings the medical perspectives on board as well as being a regulator and a policymaker himself. I think I can really stop here. The last thing would be the course. Take it. It's really good. You will be educated. You would know where we're at in the world. And we have a new one coming in, more so for the developers. It comes in this month sometime, hopefully. Thank you very much. And if you have any immediate questions, shoot. Oh, thank you.
Hi. So first of all, thank you for the brilliant presentation.
Thank you.
So as a curious person who doesn't come from the domain of health, I was just curious to know that in the respect of AI, so there's something called as an FATE framework: fairness, accountability, transparency, and ethics.
Yep.
So similar to that, are there any other frameworks? I'm not sure this one, but if, in case there are other frameworks for long-term, accountability and management of AI with respect to healthcare, which are currently being deployed or in development, that WHO or partner organizations have been working on?
As a matter of fact, yes. So within WHO, the LMM guidance that I just showed you came in 2024. So it's going beyond the fate. I was talking about accountability, liability, human in the loop, a college of experts, and so on and so forth. Apart from this, there's also OECD. I'm not at the liberty of talking too much to the work of other organizations, but just for knowledge sharing. There is OECD which is working heavily in this area. The first guidelines that came out were in 2018, and it goes far beyond the fate perspective. I think they have about 28 sectors in which they are trying to answer questions, highlighting key areas of consideration when we're talking about AI in health, not regulatory, so to speak, but trying to make everybody aware of what are the key areas that we need to be thinking about when we're talking about AI in health. So OECD and WHO definitely are there. There's also UNICEF. A lot of UN bodies are working on it. And if you talk about the EU AI Act, it has the capacity of stretching on a global level. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, again, another curious mind. I wanted to know, have you experienced any bummers, as in like AI being implemented in a situation, in a live situation, or maybe a pilot being conducted? So, if how probably things gone pretty wrong. Like, have you had such experiences or?
I think we're all looking at it. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Dr. Dikshit.
Dr. Dikshit, okay. We're all experiencing it. So the example that I had, I think, this line, yeah. It's great to have a glass nurse, and it's great to have ChatGPT telling you about what generative AI can do in terms of diagnosis, which doctors over the years could not do. But it could have gone the other way around as well, right? So this is something where fortunately things are going all right, but because the regulations are not on point just yet, it could go the other way around, and maybe we'll hear about it, hopefully not, but maybe we'll hear about it. Apart from this, yes, there have been areas where there has been AI in pharmaceutical research and development, but the data that was accumulated was from a particular part of the world, but the implementation was globally. So I'm assuming you're a medical doctor, so you would understand the dynamics of data accumulation globally, so that there is deployment also on a global scale, a successful global deployment. Apart from this, something I'm not too much at the liberty of talking is an AI model that came out from WHO itself. I don't work with the team. I work with the normative agency of WHO, not the development deployment industry. But dropping hints just in case you want to read more on that. So there are
Sure,
cases.
sure. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you so much for the brilliant presentation. So, my question is primarily regarding, you know, regulation in practice and considering, and you've touched upon this very brilliantly across your talk, is that regulation needs to catch up with AI development. And I speak on behalf of, let's say, groups that are working towards developing AI, and we are struggling with getting them into the market, primarily because regulation isn't catching up. So to give you an example, we have C as well as HSA approvals, but not within India. And FDA is another ballgame altogether. So what we are seeing is, while regulation, I think, is absolutely critical and should be done, there is also a possibility that you're stifling, I'm sorry, it's a strong word, but you'd like regulation to also aid innovation. And at this point in time, if you know, a lot of the AI development happens really quickly. So we don't want to get to a stage where you know, people then probably look at other ways of getting it out, and you know, like the bad examples that. So when what is WHO's efforts towards expediting? I know you've touched upon it, but in a very, I would say, in a context like India, what is the role that WHO is playing in order to perhaps upskill or bring some of this knowledge to CDCSO and others? If you could comment on that.
Definitely, and I love the question that you posed. It's essentially the pacing problem that we're talking about everywhere. It is completely true that there is a pacing problem between where the regulations stand today and where the technological advancements are, which is 100 years ahead of where regulations are. Especially in the Indian context, where we do not have many regulations on any regulations specific to AI. So in terms of what WHO is doing, of course, the regulatory considerations guidance. We're trying to develop it further with the help of different co-chairs this time, bringing in new perspectives. Adaptability and dynamism is something that the current regulatory considerations guidance already has. The only problem, and not a problem, is just the nature of work. WHO, with its guidance, is suggesting countries to act a certain way. Some work on it, others don't. So speaking more in the Indian context, because there are no specific legislations, the pacing problem is much more than many other countries in the world. Even with FDA, they are unsure of where they are at, and the executive order is not really addressing the applications and tools of AI in the health sector. So in terms of deployment to address the pacing problem is, of course, from our end, we develop these guidance documents and reach out to countries. So we are, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to name countries or not, so I'll refrain from that, but we're working with, I think, 20 odd countries in terms of understanding their regulatory landscape at the moment and what is it that they need to do, which is why I say read the regulatory considerations guidance. It tells you where the world is at right now, what should be the first ground one level problem to be addressed, and what are the next steps. Some countries are already at level 10, so they don't need to think about the first 10 levels. But a country like India may be perhaps not commenting that we need to get back to level 1, but some countries do need to get there. But it's a more of a domestic proactiveness that is required. International organizations, again, OECD, WHO, are already ahead of it. And while I speak of this, WIPO also came out with an IP and generative AI guidance. It's again not, it's a suggestive tool, not something that's mandated to be adopted globally. But if countries are able to keep up with the recommendations and take inspiration from other countries, I think the pacing problem will be instantly reduced. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Yes, I just want to ask whether suppose I am the one who is facing things like depression, anxiety, and there are possibilities to I will go to the AI that I can chat with chatbots or any other thing. So, but at the same time, I shouldn't think about that privacy is there. So, what are that regulations for our digital demographic data privacy? Yeah, thank you.
Great question. Just a heads up, I'm not a medical professional. So I can't encourage using chatbots for healthcare concerns. In fact, coming from WHO, I might say that don't do it. But if you are, it depends on which part of the world you're at when you are doing this. In the US, for example, there is HIPAA, which is taking care of sensitive private information. And that will make sure, or at least theoretically make sure, that the information is not being misused. When you are talking about the European Union, there is the GDPR, which is another privacy policy law that will ensure that this is private information. This information should not be let out. From an AI developer's perspective, and maybe you can contribute to this, the idea will be to filter out the information and use the parts that will better enhance my AI model. In India, there are privacy laws that will ensure that sensitive parts of the information are secured. So it really depends on which part of the world you're taking a look at it from. If I say the AI Act, because India does not have one, we're relying more on other legislative models to address what the concerns that you raised. I hope that helps.
Follow-up question on. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. So what he asked. So I remember BetterHelp, which is a personal consultation like kind of network in US. Recently, maybe last year, it was discovered they were using the medical data during the therapy for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
So how is WHO playing a part in like holding them accountable? I mean, it's discovered and still it's ongoing.
Yeah.
So that is something I would like to know, like how aggressive is WHO in promoting, what should I say, accountability point of view of such.
I love that question, and I love the word accountability and liability. The 4 guidelines here, the guidance documents here, all have accountability, liability as a premise when we're talking about AI regulations globally. We can't hold you accountable for saying that, hey, this is something that we suggested and you did not take it up. As a matter of fact, within the US, accountability and liability have proper legislations in place. So I'm not aware of this case, but I'm sure proper measures were taken. When it comes to WHO and WHO stance, we take accountability and liability at the highest standards, holding it as a basic premise for any guidance document that we come up with, or any topic specific guidance that we come up with. In the ethics and governance guidance document, we have accountability and liability as one of the 47 recommendations, and this is one of the primary recommendations. So goes for regulatory considerations. I want to go back to, documentation and transparency has accountability and liability. When we're saying there has to be transparency, and if there is not, you're accountable for why that's not the case. So that is where we are at. We're very, very conscious of how health information especially is used, trained to train models, deployed globally, because as a matter of fact, the demographic information from the global south will not be applicable to the global north. There are examples, not exactly related to health, but there were phone models, a lot of us own those phones, which had a face recognition system. They recently came out with it, and the training was done on white people. When Asians, especially from Southeast Asia, tried to use the facial recognition, you could open it for me and I could open it for you. I think that explains why so. So accountability and transparency is something that we hold at the highest accord. Yes. Thanks for having so many questions, by the way. I love it.
So when we say that India is at the very initial level of the AI deployment and AI development, and at the policy level, we see that DPDP, Digital Data Protection Act, is now enacted, but right now it is not operational.
Yeah.
Okay. And we want to develop AI technologies and we want to flourish the whole industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your take? Like how the policy should be shaped
Yeah.
to support at the same time to be very responsive,
Yeah.
responsible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question. I think first we need to understand that no statute globally works in isolation. So even if India, even when India has an AI Act that is implemented, it is essential for us to understand that it will still be tied up with the IP laws in India. It will still be tied up with the data protection laws in India. It will still be tied up to the penal code because the punishments are still sitting there. So that's the first thing. So while India does not have a dedicated AI statute, it is not that regulation, at least to keep the population safe and protected, is not in place. You just have to go around and look for the right laws. And I have a fellow lawyer with me, I think, who could agree with me on this. In terms of what is a good AI statute, that's not me. No, I left it. In terms of what's a good AI statute, it has to have. I want to go back to that slide. I'm actually really proud of this work. The 18 recommendations is a great median point to ensure that whatever AI policies that you're bringing in place are good enough for a domestic place, a country. And I don't say this because these 18 recommendations are great in themselves. It's also because they're dynamic enough to change with the changing times. They're broad enough to ensure that AI is regulated properly, but not narrow enough to keep innovation out of point. So it's a perfect balance of allowing innovation, in fact, encouraging innovation and research and development in this sector. We recognize the importance of AI in health. We are already on board. We are not questioning the importance of AI in health. We're just saying that everybody, all stakeholders, you as a developer, me as a lawyer, them as a patient, we should all be safe when we are using it. So I think this is a great starting point. I also always say that take encouragement from other international laws, such as the EU AI Act or the executive order in the US or the Singapore AI Act. In fact, Saudi Arabia is also surprising all of us. So there is great stuff happening there as well. AI knows no boundaries. We need to have a globally coordinated effort. So whatever we come up with, it is a pro and a con that India is not yet addressing the AI Act properly, because now we can keep pace with what's happening in other parts of the world as well. That's it. If you guys don't have a question, I have a question for you. When we talk about AI as developers, what are your thoughts on, I'm working on this project, so I might as well use the results from this room today. When we talk about AI as developers, and we're already seeing that, and there are different countries that have taken it to the courts on AI as developers. Do you think they can be granted the title of inventors? From a legal standpoint, inventors are legal entities, which is individuals, corporate bodies. AI, not so much yet, but what are your thoughts on this? There's no right and wrong answer, fortunately. Take a stab. Yeah. If you find AI as a developer, say in the pharmaceutical sector, we're already seeing it. There is a brand in the UK that is creating Tupperware boxes of some sort using AI models, and the owner reached out to the courts, well, to the IP bodies in the UK to say that I want to call my AI as an inventor. I'll give you the results to that later. You may already know. But what do you think? Are AI as developers good enough to be called inventors? Do you grant a legal personality to AI is the question. I think somebody had their hands up.
Okay, so not exactly the answer to it.
Yeah.
But I know one startup. So what they are trying to do, I think I'm loud enough. Okay. There's one startup. What they do So this startup, it originated in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And if you have an idea, you can use their AI tools to bring your idea to life. Like you can
Yeah.
build a product out of that.
Yeah.
And they say that you can do it in 101 days.
Hmm.
So, probably he would have thought, actually who is the inventor? Is it you using the tool as AI? Then probably,
The owner of the idea will be the inventor in this
yeah,
case.
yeah.
So the developer, not so much. I'm
Yes.
saying that you give AI huge amounts of data
Mm-hmm.
regarding to some healthcare concern, and say you're saying develop a vaccine for me, and you give it all the vaccine records possible in the world, which is nothing for an AI tool, and it gives you the right vaccine to address this particular healthcare concern. Can I call it an inventor? Should you call it an inventor? While you think about it, you had something to say.
So I was speaking on the same line.
Sorry, Resham, we were
Ah.
working, making you work too much.
So to
Thinking on this at night.
so on the same line, because we as a human, we are prompting the AI. I think we are the inventors, and AI will not be inventor
Okay.
in that case, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay, that is what the UK said. The go on. Yeah. Should I give my answer out?
I mean, I'll just speak on behalf of, so I'm part of a company called Remedio. We're a startup. We work in diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, as well
Lovely.
as
I'm
AMD
so
AI.
glad I didn't talk too much on diabetic retinopathy. Yeah.
So with respect to how like the AI models and even like our development team when they build AIs, there's this concept of like black box in AI, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the crux of your question, I think it gets stuck there.
Yeah.
And if you were to ask even the developers themselves, the scientists,
Yeah.
they'll have differing views, but at least I can speak possibly on behalf of like the group that I work with.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't be comfortable giving a legal personality to the AI, primarily because, yeah, I guess that's probably extending the IP to
Yeah.
something that we don't understand yet, which also means you can't really, like an inventor would probably at some point in time also make it public, right?
Yeah.
So there's a licensing, and so here we really don't know a lot of the mechanisms behind
Yeah.
how, like, so we train the AI on a lot of fundus images, and we don't necessarily know like what the model in itself.
Yeah.
For us it's about the architecture, and then the model that we train the AI on, and the algorithm is constantly tweaked so
Yeah.
that we improve the sensitivity and specificity. We do multi-center, multi-ethnic trials
Yeah.
to be able to arrive at the best model that then later gets regulated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unless the AI, I mean, we probably are getting into the whole, is an AI a person with consciousness and things like that.
Who knows?
Which-
Nobody. You gave words to my dilemma. The person who created the AI is the inventor of the AI. So can the AI be an inventor in itself? But speaking more from a legal point of view, IP policies globally say AI is an inventor is a legal personality, and there is a whole definition of legal personality. But simply put, corporate bodies, entities, you and me, we can be inventors. Can an AI be an inventor which does not have a consciousness, which does not have a body or personality? So this is where I'm stuck as well. It's good to know the entire, yeah, please. But it's good to know the entire room is also stuck there.
So I have read one more thing that is called as AI hallucinations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Where did you
AI,
read it?
So there is a startup in Saudi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
So-
published on it last year in Times of India. I thought just in case I'm getting some support there. Okay.
So I read one thing called as AI hallucinations,
Yes.
and where AI is generating data on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose there is a gap in A to, the data set is from A to Z,
Yeah.
and some data is missing in between.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
AI hallucinations is actually a very interesting area where, not related to health at all, but because we are talking, might as well. There was an area, a defamation. Am I over time? Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. There was a case in the US, and then one in Australia, which is AI defamation. Nothing related to health, but I'm just an AI enthusiast as well. So this AI tool took up a professor's name. I reach out to, this is ChatGPT, so we'll call it that. I reach out to ChatGPT and I say, hey, tell me everything about this person. And it creates a whole case against the professor, and he loses a lot. And this is the theoretical definition of defamation. And information is published in a third party's eye, which is outside you and me. So defamation occurred. And then the person went back to check the sources. There is nothing to that record on that professor being a part of a money laundering suit. So that was one, and then there was one in Australia where there was a politician who was running elections, and he was also accused of money laundering. I don't know what's with AI models and money laundering. So that's hallucination. There is no source to that information, but they just think of creating, accusing individuals of things that they've not done, or sometimes crediting also, but we don't talk about crediting so much. Okay, that's me. Any other questions? Aditi, I know you also had some questions for me, so just in case you want to take that up.
Firstly, thank you, Kanika. It was really lovely listening to all this. I think one question has to be asked at the end of our discussion is that how can we foster public trust in AI healthcare technologies through effective regulations? Because I think that's also a very big concern.
I love that question. Documentation and transparency. We want documentation at every step of AI development. When you are using information, where are you getting that information for? I swear I'm not doing that. Where are you getting where are you getting that information from? What are you going to use it for? What is the intended purpose of that information? Where are you going to take it further? If this is the intended use, can you assure that this will not be used for any other purposes? If you have a change of mind, you have to intimate the regulatory body. How so? Once all of this is in place, there is trust. And that requires documentation and transparency. By transparency, I mean not somebody who knows one government system to know exactly where to go, what records to feed in order to understand how this technology was created. So that kind of honest documentation and transparency will instantly build trust. That's actually a very interesting question, because there was also a question regarding fear. So a group of experts were made to sit in the same room. They're either lawyers or developers or regulators or patient groups. And they were asked one term on why not AI in health. There were many reasons for why AI in health. I'm not going to speak to that. It's established. Why not? And the common answer, I think there were some 7 keywords that came out in a group of 55 or 60 people. And the one term that was used most often was fear, which was 35 of the 55. And when people were asked to elaborate on what is this fear about, it was straight. A doctor is busy typing on the system on the data records that they're procuring from the patient. And the patient's so confused, and there's constant fear on, oh, where is my information going to go? What is going to happen from here on? So if there is honest documentation and transparency, and if you're able to also use AI models for administrative tasks so that doctors and patients can have a face-to-face conversation without a laptop in the middle, it would be so helpful, and there will be instant trust building when they find out that half the work was actually done, administrative work was actually done by the AI models. And here I have to say, I am not advocating for no human in the loop. Please have humans in the loop. This is me and also WHO saying that. Yeah.
I think just to add on to what you just shared, then how can regulators ensure that AI in healthcare does not exacerbate these existing inequalities? If you want to just share a bit about that.
Amazing. Accumulation of data from all possible sources, especially if you're thinking of deploying tools from one part of the world to the other part of the world. That's the simple, straight answer. If you don't want to exacerbate further inequalities, there's actually a book that is coming out. I don't like the title of it, but it's called AI in Health: How Global Health Inequalities Are Going to Be Exacerbated Further. And that's a bit presumptuous for me. I actually read about it this morning on LinkedIn. I'll share it with you. The problem there is, it is not true that AI will exacerbate inequalities or inequities. It has the potential, that is so true. It definitely has the potential. But if the regulators are doing their job well, that will never happen. And if the deployers and the regulators are doing their job well, and if the developers and deployers are also conscious of the kind of efforts they are putting into the development of that AI technology, I don't think this problem will come in. That's me. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Kanika. Thank you for sharing your insights, and they have been invaluable. And definitely, as we navigate this complicated space of intersection of health and technology, it's been wonderful. You've been a lovely audience, and just to sum up this entire session, we would like to give you a small memento from our end, and thank you for your lovely presentation.
Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful questions. I really enjoyed this session. Thank you.
They were lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Kanika, thank you so much for being a part of this event. And as usual, we are, I think, at least I am much more enlightened and have much more information on AI and health and the regulatory landscape. So thank you, and we look forward to joining us for lunch.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. A huge shout out.
Big smile, big smile.